The first story of the day is about Trump and Macron, Emmanuel Macron, the leader or the president, or I don't know if he's called the prime minister. I believe it's the president, but everyone's got their own name. He leads France. Doesn't really matter. It's just words. And him and Trump had some choice words for each other. First off, I just want to say Emmanuel Macron, he's equivalent to CNN, New York Times, and Washington Post. If you could think of those news sources, if they were a person in person format, that would be Emmanuel Macron. He's a total puppet. I mean, I believe he runs deep with the bank bloodline, so to speak. I'm not saying in his blood, his actual bloodline, but, he's connected to the banks. He was called a centrist. CNN, Emmanuel Macron is a centrist. Have you ever heard them call anybody a centrist? It's either far left, far right, you're a Nazi, everyone who disagrees with us. So from the jump, he was endorsed by Obama. Talk about foreign meddling in elections. They said, Emmanuel Macron, vote for him. Everyone else is a Nazi. So the dude's a total setup. He's like the equivalent of the resistance in France. They installed a nice puppet president so they could push their global, mind information and literal, country control to the world. He's the new Angela Merkel. She's dipping out because her plan's not working. She's like, oh shoot, I just ruined Europe with my refugee program, so now I got to run away because Trump's scaring me. Emmanuel Macron is the new guy in town. He's the new puppet in town. So, the news has been misreporting him for a long, long time. First off, I want to say, before I even get into like him and Trump and what they're saying, Macron is not popular. I have multiple friends go to France, but everybody who goes there tells me how unpopular he is. And you could see in the polls, Bloomberg did a poll last month or 2 months ago and found out his approval rating was a 19%. Recently, they had a new published poll, and it was 26%. His approval rating, even though the media is literally a PR team for Emmanuel Macron, all they've done, New York Times, Washington Post, MSNBC, you name it, liberal media, Facebook, Google, Twitter, all of the tech companies, they have artificial intelligence algorithms, they have all types of machine learning and other programs, and they're all directed at making Emmanuel Macron look great. They have data on everybody, just like I published before. What was it, Amazon's things recording you in your home? But anyway, they're saying how great he is, and he still can't get above a 26 approval rating. The guy is not popular. He's not a good leader. He doesn't take care of his country. Paris has to now have a terrorism border around the Eiffel Tower. Everybody I know that goes to, even liberals, I had a liberal friend, and I was like, it was a woman. I said, did you go to France? Oh, yeah, it was great. And I was like, did you notice anything different about France this time you went? And she was like, well, yeah, I was walking and like a group of guys came around me and one guy grabbed me and I had to run for my life. I was like, yeah, that's a pretty big detail that you should share. So everyone I know, Paris is a shell of what it once was because of horrible leadership from Angela Merkel and people like Emmanuel Macron. So not only does he not take care of his own country, but he's not popular at all. Nobody in France even likes him after they elected him. So I just wanted to say that little tidbit because the media acts like he's so great, but no one even likes him. Trump has like a 50% approval rating, higher than Obama's. And think about the entire media, from television to social media, was a PR team for Obama and Macron. And the fact that Trump has an approval rating higher than both of them just shows you how fake the media is and how unsuccessful they are in their plot to basically invert reality. So Emmanuel Macron, he's not this cool centrist that they're talking about. He's a failed leader of his own country. So on that note, Macron has the nerve to say nationalism is bad, nationalism so bad. This is because, and not to steal, terminology from people like Trump and Alex Jones, but many other people do it as well. Words are just words, but a great way is nationalism versus globalism. It's a real thing. There are people like Emmanuel Macron, whatever you want to call him, is a globalist. He thinks he controls the whole world. Him and Angela Merkel and their UN, EU buddies, they think that they should control America. They think that their refugee policy, they should flood your country with these refugees who are, mixed in with extremist jihadis, which is just proven to raise pretty much every rate that you wouldn't want to raise in your country. It's happening in Germany. It's happening in UK. It's happening in Canada. They think they are the world leaders that just control everybody. And then you have nationalism like Trump, who says, America first, I love my country, let's work on ourselves, let's not try to do everything in the world, let's just focus on ourselves and make America great. I'm not trying to dictate what everyone else is doing per se, I'm trying to dictate what America's doing I'm going to dictate America's relationships with every other country. I'm going to dictate trade deals and wars and everything that I control, and then let everyone do their own thing. So nationalist versus globalist. If you're too far either way, it's bad. You don't want to be too much of a nationalist. You don't want to be too much of a globalist. You want to be in the middle, have care about everybody, but focus on yourself first. So the media pushes it. Emmanuel Macron is such a cool guy, man. Emmanuel Macron is really better than Trump. He showed Trump. He told him that nationalism is really bad. First of all, there's nothing more embarrassing. Macron is a human form of Los Angeles and San Francisco, where they're so busy dictating what everyone else is doing. Nationalism's bad. Bro, Macron, Emmanuel, focus on your own country. Nobody likes you there. It's a shell of what it once was. You should be more of a nationalist. He should take some Trump's qualities from Trump. He's too busy about the whole world. He's not even focusing on France and Paris, and that's why they've turned into, way worse places. Everybody knows it. The locals know it. People who visit Paris knows it. Paris is not as nice as it used to be. Paris is not as safe as it used to be. Trump's not lying. I don't care what data. I don't care if Reuters says otherwise or Washington Post says otherwise. Go to Paris, look for yourself. I'm sure it's still very nice. I'm not saying that it's terrible, but it's not as nice or safe. That's basically a fact that they're probably not going to share. He should focus on his own country. He doesn't. So him saying that he doesn't like nationalism and denouncing nationalism when you have a 19% to 26% approval rating, nobody likes you in your own country, and your country is literally going downhill. His words mean absolutely nothing. It's not cool, no matter how much Twitter promotes it and Facebook promotes it and Snapchat promotes it, because all the liberal tech companies like to circle jerk their own theories and say, oh my God, he's such a cool guy, man. He really put Trump in his place. No, he didn't. His country is not going in the direction it should. So that's the first takeaway. He also said he wants to create his own army or something of the sorts to protect themselves from Russia and United States and China. First thing I'll say about that is it's not a bad idea. If you want to create your own army, I'm all for taking care of yourself first. So if that's how you feel, you should create your own army. It won't hurt to have your own army. I wouldn't want to rely on someone else's army. It's the United States. I wouldn't want to be relying on France's army. So if you're France, I understand why you don't want to rely on the United States' army. But behind that, the real story plot that they're not going to tell you is Emmanuel Macron is like Obama. That's why I endorsed him. It's like a Hillary. It's like everybody who doesn't like Trump in the United States. It's like an Angela Merkel. So when he says these things, it's not like he's trying to be the savior of humanity. He's upset because him and his buddies are losing the total domination over the world that they had. So they have to do backflips to try to make you think, oh my God, wow, he really put the racists in their place. No, he didn't. Nothing he says really concerns me. Once again, Trump's telling the truth. In my personal perspective, you could feel however you want, but Trump's not perfect. Emmanuel Macron is far from perfect, but I'm just tired of the framing of these things like, oh, nationalism bad. He's so good. Oh, it's not true. His approval rating is very, very low. His country is not, bouncing back from the refugee crisis. And my big problem is I talked to my liberal friend over the weekend who's really cool. I said, listen, you don't have to agree with me on the refugee crisis. You don't have to agree with me on the immigrant crisis. Someone said the border thing's happening right now. I'll cover it later. You don't have to agree with me, but half the world, literally Europe, the number one topic in a lot of these countries is immigration. They're very, very concerned about it. So the fact that you just act like it doesn't exist, Macron just acts like it doesn't exist, liberal media acts like it doesn't exist, it's so ridiculously dishonest. Even if you disagree with me and say immigration and refugee, it's not as big of a deal as homegrown terrorism. I'm willing to have that conversation. I'm willing to talk about the mental health problem and the crazy Americans that we have. I'm willing to talk about it all, but the fact that they try to act like it doesn't exist, like Macron can say whatever he wants about nationalism and his army and stuff, but he won't tell you that Paris is not as safe as it used to be. He won't tell you that France is suffering greatly and the people there are suffering greatly and the culture there is suffering greatly from the failed refugee, illegal immigration policies of Merkel and probably Macron himself. So I'm tired of the framing of it. I don't care if you like Macron better than Trump. I don't care if you don't like Trump. I don't care if you think illegal immigration is not a real threat. I'm willing to have these conversations, but what I'm not willing to do is have Facebook, Twitter, Google, YouTube, Washington Post, New York Times, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, and all of these other crony celebrities that just circle jerk their information. I'm tired of them just totally framing everything in the most dishonest, ridiculous light. ignoring half of the world, ignoring half of the country, and acting like it doesn't exist. It totally exists. Another win for Trump, another loss for Macron. Hopefully, or probably, he'll retire soon after Merkel. After they're done lying and realize it's not working and their approval rating dips below 20%, then they're like, okay, I'm going to hang it up. Next story,